Um, I'm back again. I know that I haven't really been showing you exactly what I've been doing in a lot of videos. People, kind of show what's going on during the tear down or repair or whatever it is, and I don't mind doing stuff like that, but I don't have the capability. I just don't know how to use it. Of doing the time lapse of running through, taking an intake manifold off, or beating this into submission with a hammer and dolly and refitting the headlight 40 times before I get it to where I want. This would be just doing this little bit of work would have been at least an hour, hour and a half worth of work by the time I showed you pulling the front bumper off and pulling the headlight out. And there's a lot of videos out there of people showing you how to do a bulb replacement or a front bumper, replacement repair or whatever like that. There's a lot of people who actually already do that. And I know I need to get into something specific where you can actually follow along. My projects have been all over the place, and I've said this on a couple other videos. I have so much going that I don't even know where to start. I mean, that's how far away I am from getting any one project complete. And it seems like every time I get one or two things pretty close to being done, I either lose focus or something else happens to it because I'm driving it every day, or I find other things wrong with it, and it ends up kind of sitting aside, and I can find another project, and it's really hard for me to stay focused on one. And that's something that I'm going to have to work on as I'm getting older. It's harder for me to maintain 9 vehicles at the same time, plus work on the house and work on somebody else's, plus I'm working a full-time job. So there's some things going to be changing. I'm trying to get this done because it needs to be out of my driveway. I'm not trying to push it through, or I'm upset that I took the project, because I really enjoy working on these. I enjoy trying to find and diagnose the problems, and then that's what I really need to show you guys, more of the diagnostic part of it. I should have videoed how I came to the conclusion that the injector was hung, and that because I went through with a video on this, whether it was added to this one or in a previous video, on how I came to find out that number one cylinder was bad. And I wish I could do that. Like I said, my code reader, a friend of mine still has. I need to go get it from him or have him bring it by. But this has other ongoing problems that I need to address. One is I am so disorganized in my garage, I cannot find the wiring harness now or the extra airbag sensor I had laying in the garage. I have no idea what I did with them. I do have a GMC truck over there. The problem is I don't know if the airbag light's on. I mean, I assume it is. It's an old truck. So I need my code reader, and I need to get that truck started, and I need to run the codes on it to find out if it has any airbag sensors that's bad, because I don't want to put an old used airbag sensor in that's just as bad as the one that's in here. And they're about $65, it looks like, to $75. It depends on who you go through to buy to replace. So it's not like they're not unattainable. And I got a friend that's got 2 or 3 of these trucks at his place also. He's been stripping, not the Gen 4 engines, but they use the same airbag sensor. I looked them up from an 03, and then I looked them up on the 07, and they were the same airbag sensor. So anyway, here's what the deal is. I know I got to replace number 1 injector. To do that, I'm looking at, I could possibly do it without pulling the alternator, but it looks to me to be easier to get to the retaining ring and put everything back together, and the bolts and all, to pull the alternator. Well, I also need, I finally got my arm back in there, and it cut my arm all up. I'm actually bleeding. Trying to get back in there to find the oil pressure sender to find out if the wire had just come undone, and it feels like it's where it belongs. The problem is, not only could you not see it, you can barely feel it. There's a lot of stuff in the way. So I think the decision's made. I'm going to pull the intake manifold off of it to do both of these, not only replace the injector, but to replace that oil center unit. You don't have to do it. I've seen videos of people doing it, but if I take the strut rod out and take the bolts loose on that, I can raise the hood up a little further. The guy I saw do it, he actually pulled the front tires off, had a better step stool than the center block like I use, and he was able to lower it to where he could reach back here and get to it better. I know it can be done without pulling it, but because I've got a couple other things to do, I got at least 2 things to do. I think, because you got to pull this one injector, you basically at least minimum have to pull the other 4, and it's possible I have to pull all 8 up out of there, because that's kind of, it may be a rubber or plastic hose that goes from one side to the other. I've never really worked on these. I really don't remember even on the Gen 3s. there's not enough give. I don't know that you can rock all 4 of those over enough on the driver's side without damaging the ones on the passenger, the seals, or bending the bracket up or whatever. So by pulling the air intake, which for some reason on these, I don't know how much you can see on that, but I don't know what the story was here, but here's the intake, you know, here's your air cleaner. This is just laying here, it's from the battery. I just laid it in there so it wouldn't get crushed by the hood. But for some reason, they got this thing that runs all the way back. I have no idea what GM was thinking there. So we just got a hose running to it. Anyway, I'm gonna see, that looks like a complete metal line. Here's where the fuel line, that's that metal deal there, 90s into that square box, which on the Gen 3s don't look like that. And it runs over top, and it's metal all the way over, and it runs into, you can't see, that's where it ties into that side, or this side of that side, and then your main fuel line, or your hookup, that's that deal there. It's got a clip on it, and that's where the fuel comes from, the pump and the tank. So anyway, number 1 injector is buried in there somewhere, so that's why I'm sitting there thinking, you know, this harness is in the way. Alternator's not really in the way, but there's a lot of stuff that you kind of got to mess with, and it's because that's a hard tube line going over there. I don't want to damage it. I think I could take it apart from here, but I don't know. You can see that's actually got a little screw or bolt or something in it where it's got a retainer in it. I think you could take it apart there. That way you could do just one side, but I just don't think so. I think it'd be better just to pull the whole thing. Besides that, if that wire is damaged back there where that sender is, and I spent all that time of trying to put it in and then come to find out the wire, you know, the wire is damaged. Now, I haven't done anything but cut myself all up and possibly have an oil leak, you know, that I can't see. It's just easier just to, I think, to pull the intake manifold off. This isn't for everybody. I mean, it's not hard, but you got to pay attention where all your wires come off and stuff. And you got to pull this bracket here off, this plastic 3-bolt bracket, so you can get this wiring harness loose, because it runs down, hooks to your computer, and runs into your fuse box. And you know, GM actually changed a lot of this stuff. You can, because the cover has gone off of this already, I could actually unhook these, or the whole, actually I can actually just take the whole computer out, and I could possibly, I don't know how much of that I can unhook. Like I said, this is a different generation, something I haven't really worked on. So it's not much different, but there are differences, you know. So just keep that in mind from one generation to another, that no matter what you think, they did do different things. But anyway, I think it's just what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to pull the intake manifold off of it. I'm just looking to see how much garbage is in there. It looks pretty clean. It's got dust on it, but I mean, it doesn't look like a car full of oil or garbage or, you know, rat's nests or whatever, which is, you know, see that wiring loom is, it's actually, you can actually see the wires are bare, and it's right up against that metal. It's actually a clamp, you know, for the heater core, and it's missing a lot of that cover, and that actually drops down into that. I don't know if that's actually the wire that goes into, but into that sender. But my concern is that there's some damaged wire somewhere, because it was fine, and then boom, it was just bad. Now, I still think it's a sender, but that's just odd to me that when it did it, I didn't tell you this, I pulled this cover off the top, which is, you know, they all have, if they haven't been messed with, they still got their plastic cover on them. When I went, everything was fine, and I was checking everything. Then when I found out, you know, that this was done, I put the cover and everything back on so I could tell him what was going on, just in case he didn't want me to work on it. And right after I put this on and closed the hood and started it, that's when it went into limp mode and lost its oil pressure. Well, it didn't lose its oil pressure. The vehicle thinks it's lost its oil pressure. So you know, this thing snaps way back in there. It just slides in there. It's not like I hit anything. I didn't see any wires really, but the ones I do see that it may have hit are the ones that don't have the. It doesn't matter if they have that plastic sheeting on there, but that is for, you know, that's on there for a reason. You know, and this one's missing part of it, and that's because of heat. Plus, like I said, it's got 200,000 miles on it, so. You know, this kind of happens. It looks like this is either wore or had gotten chewed a bit. That's actually goes, that's your alternator main feed. It charges the battery back up. Anyway, or exciter. I don't know what it does. It doesn't make it everything. It goes from the alternator. It's the main. So I'm going to pull this intake manifold. I'll show you once it's off, and if I see anything, well, I'll show you what the sender looks like and stuff. And like I said, not everybody will do this. So if you're wanting or needing to change that sender yourself, watch other videos, look at some of the, you know, what GM says, how they do it and what they do and how much time they allow, because all that stuff makes a difference if you're doing it for yourself or doing it for somebody else or whatever, and you're charging labor, you know, labor fees or whatever. Boy, it's bright out here today. So anyway, that's where I'm headed. I'll bring you back in a minute.